One of the key elements of the debt you may recall, the previous government embarked on an IMF program that had a comprehensive debt restructuring as a conditionality. This became necessary because our debt at the time was unsustainable and there was the need for Ghana to meet debt sustainability threshold for low-income countries, sometimes known as the LAC DSA. The thresholds were: A, reduce debt to GDP ratio to below 55% by the year 2028 in present value terms. B, to reduce the external debt service to revenue ratio to below 18% from 2028 onwards. And C, to ensure that no external financing gap exists during the IMF program period. One of the key elements of the debt restructuring was the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding by the Official Creditors Committee for Ghana. The former Minister of Finance, the Honorable Mohammed Amin Adam, commenced the process for the signing of the MOU by individual members of the Official Creditors Committee in June 2024. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that following His Excellency the President's directive, we have made significant progress in Ghana's external debt restructuring. On the 17th of January 2025, I, in my capacity as Minister of Finance, China and France for their support and assistance to Ghana throughout this process. Ladies and gentlemen, the Memorandum of Understanding formalizes the debt treatment agreed with the Official Creditors Committee and follows a long and in-depth negotiation process initiated by the Government of Ghana back in June 2024. The signing of this agreement constitutes an important milestone in Ghana's debt restructuring journey. Ghana is now entering the final stage of the restructuring process. We now have a strong and detailed framework to implement the financial terms through bilateral agreement with the official creditors. As Minister, I will expedite our engagement in order to complete the remaining 7% of the debt restructuring. We take this opportunity to do the implementation of an ambitious reform agenda, fostering strong, resilient, and inclusive growth for all Ghanaians. I repeat, with this progress on the debt restructuring, we will now focus our economic recovery through the implementation of an ambitious reform agenda, fostering strong and inclusive growth for all Ghanaians. We thank you all so much for your attention. Thank you.
Right, so good evening and thank you very much for joining us tonight. This is The Bottom Line. My name is Kwesi and we are coming your way live from our studios here at Ridge in Accra. Now, just gone by is a bite from Dr. Kisi Latofosin, who is the Minister of Finance, talking to us, the entire country, about some breakthrough in the debt restructuring efforts that's been pursued by the government of Ghana. And it's some exciting news for those in the world of finance. Tonight, we want to be going through a bit of that and also analyze the entire efforts of the country towards restructuring our debts and reaching sustainable levels of debt management. So what the finance minister had spoken to us about, as I have announced, is that Ghana has reached a significant breakthrough in its debt restructuring efforts, significantly, with all 25 participating creditor countries signing an MOU, marking a crucial step toward the nation's economic recovery. This will form the crust of our discussions tonight. And so you want to stick and stay with us. We'll be taking you through a bit of a history on how we came about all of this and what we've been doing so far. But tonight, I have our very own Dr. Sharif Mahmud Khalid. We used to introduce him as a tax expert, a policy expert, an economist, a financial expert, and so on and so forth. But tonight, his introduction is the Economic Policy Advisor, Office of the Vice President. Doc, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
And congratulations to you. I mean, from myself and from the entire team here at Metro TV, from Bottom Line and the producer and everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we are happy that you've attained this height. Let me start with it before I come to Dr. Atofosin. Policy advisor, we've heard it over and over again. People talk about the economic management team. For you, what exactly does it entail? What are you marked to do?
Well, you advise on the economy as to which direction it goes, where policy formulations are. So it's more like you are running a delivery unit. Policies where you have engagement, especially with stakeholders. You look at government policy. Of course, you work with synergies, right from the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, among other issues, and key sectors of the economy to ensure that the economy runs smoothly.
So
you're just not existing in isolation.
You've been given a job description already, and you've started working already.
In earnest.
I'm sure there is pressure, lots of pressure already.
Well, we're getting there.
But what should we be expecting as a country? I mean, having the likes of you in, some people have been talking about the kind of appointments the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is making. Somebody engaged me yesterday, and my answer to him was, President Mahama has been shown the red card before. He's come into power before. He's been told that you didn't perform before. And so I'm not expecting him to be making any appointment that will cause us to attack him again. From all the things that we've seen, the appointments, of course, you are part. And the way we are going, do you think we are in the right direction?
I mean, obviously, you'd see, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that we are moving in the right direction. Because if you look at what's happening currently, and I call this positive signaling as far as governance is concerned. In the wake, like immediately after the elections, President Mahama did something very significant to herald himself into office. He did a massive tour of African countries, inviting African heads of states to the inauguration. And I mean, we had not less than 25 African heads of states attending our inauguration, which was quite historic. So what it tells you is that on the international relations front, there was confidence, right? And this dovetails into the economy. Interestingly, the Sahel, you've had 3 countries pulling out of ECOWAS, forming the Sahel region or the Sahel bloc. We had them present at our inauguration. And economic-wise, looking at their proximity to us as a country, they are very significant. So if there's an endorsement, or for that matter, a tacit endorsement of their presence at the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama, that's a significant feat. So this tells you that he hasn't stopped right from the day he was inaugurated, or right from the day he got the signal that he has won the elections. And you'd see the piecemeal approach within which he came with appointments, going by key sectors. You had energy, you had the Attorney General, because that's his chief advisor and the country's chief advisor as far as the law is concerned. Then you move on to the economy, where you have the eminent Dr. Atufosson, who has been, Deputy Finance Minister, has been ranking member on finance, has been,
Minority
leader in Parliament, majority leader for a short while before transiting to become, as you may know, or as you've seen, Finance Minister. So he's been dealing with the IMF, he's been dealing with he was witness to all of the creditor agreements that went on in whatever of the capacities he was in. So this is a very confident man that's taking the reign of the economy. So it tells you that that's very important. But President Mahama signaled something very important, his investment in the youth. Right, Africa, if you look at
I'm happy you mentioned this because we are discussing debt restructuring anyway. But because you are here, we'll take the opportunity to
his investment in the youth. Yeah, he's looking at the future.
I'm concerned about employment. I mean, you talk about investment in the youth, and I'm concerned about one of the pillars of the economic development that everybody is looking at is how we'll be able to solve the issue of youth employment, especially. I mean, for everybody, but not just the youth, but most importantly, the youth. And once you are with the team,
and well, as you could see, there's a new creation that hasn't existed in a while within the executive organogram of government, which is the youth ministry. Today we have a youth minister, and it tells you that President Mahama is holding at the fulcrum of his administration the youth, right? So, bringing in a youth organizer who has worked tirelessly, just not a one-time youth organizer, a two-time youth organizer who understand the youth very well and putting them in very strategic places. And, you'd have a deputy who is a deputy to the youth organizer who is now Minister of Youth, running a youth agency, which is also very critical. So it tells you that there's a sort of triangle that is being formed. Then you have Malik, Deputy Director of Communications at the Youth Employment. So you see that triangle.
And he has been with the young people
all this while. So that triangle of the youth ministry, where you had the, Ayariga running a youth agency and Malik running another youth agency, in and of itself is great confidence that
Eric also running the NEIP.
So it tells you
and
that
then George running the ministry where all of this. And this is a discussion we've had before. That's why I'm happy that it comes up. You remember we've had a discussion where we're talking about duplicity of activities from all of these agencies, where you would have the YE doing one program, you have the NEIP doing another program, you have the NYE, and even Ghana Enterprises agencies. So now that they all come into one ministry, under one ministry, there will be some kind of synergy.
Obviously, which is why the ministry has been created. And mind you, some are existing in regulatory capacity. And that line could be a bit blurred depending on what is happening. So, but coming under the umbrella of a full-fledged ministry, right, with a nomenclature of a youth ministry, in and of itself shows a certain level of coherence and synergy in the government. So far you'd see that there's a form of stability as far as governance is concerned. And what this signals, which goes to our topic, is that it brings economic stability. It brings economic confidence. As you would see, I mean, it's still early days. The government is not up to a month-year-old. It's still trying to get there, right? But the first quarter, when the budgets are being read, and, I say that let's be patient enough to see what the budget brings out.
The budget is to be read next month, March.
Yeah, March. The aspiration of the government will be clad in that budget.
You have started making an input already into the budget?
Well, the key stakeholders are.
I'm expecting to see more of you, and that's why I'm hitting on you. I'm expecting to see more of you in the government, because some of us have experienced you and the wealth of knowledge you have.
It's me you're seeing now. I'm in studio with you discussing these issues, so that's me you're experiencing.
No, but we should see the things you have been saying.
No, the point is there's a lot going on.
For example, in the budget, we should feel them in the budget.
I mean, there's a lot going on. As you could see, you saw the presser of the finance minister. And for me, it was something very fundamental happened. And I thought that was crucial. Why do I say this? Look, he wasn't political about it.
Exactly.
Right? He didn't make any reference to any government doing X, Y, Z in the wrong way, but he showed continuity. He showed confidence. He showed resilience, right? And he shows an embrace of the program, which in itself is investor confidence. That's exactly what he's communicating. And, a lot of work has gone into, even during the transitionary period. I was part of the meeting when we asked you want to see me working. I was part of the meeting when the IMF was engaged. And it was very positive towards us saying that, look, hey, there's going to be sustainability, there's going to be growth, there's going to be prosperity. We know it's difficult days, but we're going to weather the storm. And that's exactly what the finance minister is saying.
So I'm going to go to the screen pretty shortly, and then we would start talking about restructuring our debt program. But before I do that, once we are talking about the Honorable Finance Minister, there's one key point he made at the veteran, which he keeps reiterating, that the macro statistics are important.
Yes.
But for the people to feel the performance of the economy in their pockets, we should focus on the micro.
Yes.
What do you make of that, and how is that going to be implemented? When you answer that, I'll go to the screen, and then I'll show some statistics of the performance of the government. I mean, successive governments in managing.
Well, I get where he's coming from. I mean, when you look at macro statistics, they're not forward-looking in nature. Right, they're always a photographic picture of what had happened at a particular period of time. You cannot project to say this. You can only extrapolate and make certain projections, which you may miss or not miss. So what he's invariably trying to tell us is that, look, a feel of it, or the proof of the pudding, is in the eating here. So if we say, look, the economy has grown by X percentage, or employment has grown by that, how many people have been employed, to which sector? Is the formal, the informal sector? How is this translating into real lives? Healthcare, education, etc., etc. This is what he's referring to, the real tangibilities of the economy. And that's what everyone else is looking for. And that is the back of what we campaign for as far as the resetting agenda was concerned. And is concerned, and as it's ongoing.
We are looking at that, and I'm actually interested in the budget when it is read, because we should see the implementation plan and the amount of monies that have been committed into supporting some of these initiatives of the government, which would help us materialize.
And you see that there's a certain level of architecture being formed around the financial framework of the country, which ought to be commended as well. And again, that is set to give stability and investor confidence. Johnson Esiama, right, has just been appointed
governor of the Bank of
governor of the Central Bank. He's worked there 23 years. He has been a deputy governor, right, for quite some time. So he brings to bear that experience and stability at the central bank. Mind you, central banks are very old school in nature, but I've worked closely with him. He's very ambitious in terms of, when I say ambitious, very positively, ambitious as far as the practices of a 21st century central bank is concerned. So this is a man who is going in there after staying out for 8 years, right? He used to champion this initiative, the twin peak model of central banking, which we all tease him about, which is quite a very interesting perspective as far as central banking is concerned. And if he's taking such initiatives to the central bank, that again is an injection of fresh blood. Now, we've had another appointment that has been made within the financial space. The Honorable Aveji going to SEC is very interesting. This is someone who has served Parliament for a very long time, served the Finance Committee for a very long time, right? He's got all the experience, or public sector experience, as far as public sector finance is concerned. You had the Honorable or the Venerable Sektekpe sitting at the presidency as an advisor, or economic advisor.
Who has been the Minister of Finance?
Who has been the Deputy Minister of Finance, Minister of Finance. When you look at Sektekpe's experience, a very interesting thing is that he was not a parliamentarian, but when he was Deputy Minister at the time, under Kobnado Dr. Kobnado both of them were not MPs, right? So Sektekpe was always on the floor of Parliament debating these issues and trying to get, so he has a wealth of experience. Apart from that, he comes with technical experience. Worked with the Bretton Woods institutions before, so he's quite an IMF World Bank chap. So he brings a lot of that experience to bear on the role he's bringing to the presidency as an economic advisor. A very, very interesting appointment got made today in the person of Dr. Nimoy Thompson.
Yes,
who is to run the,
he's running before.
Yeah, he's running before.
Did the
40-year development plan, which is still relevant to this day.
Exactly.
Mind you, the 24-hour economy, they're one of the flagship programs of the NDC.
You will see that I've written that here. That's something that I'm going to ask on.
Yeah, the 24-hour economy is within that framework of a document that Dr. Nimoy Thompson championed. And, you know, very interestingly, where you'd see the president's deliberate communication as far as economic growth and stability is important. When you look at the presser, the Honorable Felix, it was explicit that he'll be dealing with the finance minister and the central bank governor, among other key financial institutions. So it tells you that the economy is at the heart of President John Dramani Mahama's
So after
governance.
After the middle of March, when the budget is ready, we'll come back now to implementation. We will need to now jump from the talk We've seen the action, we've seen the appointments, we've seen the energy towards making this work.
I don't want you to call it talk. It's signaling.
The signaling.
Positive signaling.
I mean, for an economist.
Positive signaling.
The positive signaling. So please tell Dr. Khalid that he's a blessing to have him. It's a blessing to have him at the office of the Vice President. He's young, learned, and full of energy to help the Veep. Indeed, I love the way His Excellency the President is using the knowledgeable young men into key positions. This is good for our democracy and for the NDC party. I wish him the best of my office, or of the office. My name is Amivi. Amivi, you didn't tell us where you are texting from. So
thank you.
You can send us your message. We've put the line there. We want it to be interactive. And we'll take a quick break. When I come back from the break, I'll walk up to the screen and I'll provide you with Ghana's public debt statistics and how we've tried to manage it. And then we can come back specifically to the public debt management. You're welcome back from the break. This is still the bottom line. So I've just left Dr. Sharif, but I'm coming to the screen, and I'll join him pretty shortly. I introduced you early on our discussion for the evening that we are tackling Ghana's public debt. And I would want to provide you with some statistics, and this is gotten from the Ministry of Finance. Q3 2023, and then I'll do for 2024. And then I'll run you through how the government has tried to manage the IMF program and our domestic debt exchange program and the ones we had outside the country. So in Q3 2023, the total public debts for the country, it's in millions. It's 571,617.36 million. If you check that, the external debt, those from outside, was 329,643.44. That forms 57.7% of the entire debt of the country that we owed in the first quarter of the year 2023. Now, domestic debt exchange, and you need to take note of this because this plays into the entire domestic debt, not exchange, domestic debt. This plays into the entire debt exchange program and the IMF program and everything that we had was 241,973.92, and that formed 42.3% of the entire public debt, which was the 571,617.36 million. And I've said, take note of the fact that all these figures that we are quoting is in millions. Now, let's come to Q4 2023. So this obviously will be year on year. And first, Q4, that's the second quarter of the year 2023, or the fourth quarter. That's the last part of the year, 2023. We had 608,579.51 million as our total public debt. And the foreign or the external debt percentage of it, again, was 57.7 or 57.7. And that was an amount of 351,283.58 million. And the domestic debt in quarter 4, 2023 was 257,295.92 million. That is still 42.3. So some percentages and some of the figures kept at the place they were. Now let's come to the second quarter of 2024. And I've already presented to you the third quarter, and we have done the fourth quarter, but we should have even started from maybe the third quarter 2024 or the second quarter 2024. So let's do the second quarter 2024 now. You see that from quarter 3 2023 to the second quarter 2023, the figure had jumped again from 571,617.36 million to 608,579.51 million. That's the total public debt. And then the external part of it was 452,160.32. That formed 60.9%. And this is the second quarter of 2024. The external debt, how much we owed outsiders, the country Ghana owed outsiders, formed 60.9% of the total debt that we owed or we had borrowed. The local one was 39.1%. That's 289,990.06 million. And then, of course, the third quarter of 2024 is there. We had gone to, you can check it from here. So the third quarter 2023, fourth quarter 2023, second quarter 2024, and the third quarter 2024. So from the third quarter last year, or the previous year, 571,617.36 million had jumped by some percentage to 807,794.02 million. I'm sure we'll see the difference in percentage later on. The external debt percentage of it was 62.7, and that's 506,330.20 million. And then the local debt was 301,643.82 million. So as of the third quarter 2024, our total public debt stood at 807,794.02. And out of this 807,794.02 million, we had 62% of that coming from outside the country, 37.3% of that coming from our local people that we borrowed from locally. So we can go to the next slide. And this is a timeline of Ghana's debt restructuring efforts, what we've been doing so far to be able to restructure our entire debt. So 1st of July, if you remember, in the year 2022, government had to seek an IMF bailout. And when we come to Doc, I'll be asking him whether this was actually necessary. And if you remember, this was the time that we had been talking about e-levy. The finance ministry had, or the minister at the time, had promised that if e-levy pulls through successfully, we may not have to go to the IMF. But eventually, on the 1st of July 2022, government or the entire country had to go to the IMF. On the 5th of December 2022, government launched the domestic debt exchange program. It was met, in fact, the IMF program itself didn't sit well with a lot of Ghanaians. And the e-levy which led it, or which had come before it, wasn't also met well with a lot of Ghanaians. And government launched the domestic debt exchange program. The entire country, the economists, the financial experts, everybody started talking. Now, the 12th of December 2022, government and the IMF reached a staff-level agreement, and they announced it as a successful arrangement towards the acquisition of the $3 billion rescue package. January 2023, Ghana requested debt restructuring under the G20's common framework process. The following month, February 2023, government ends domestic debt exchange with about 85% of eligible bondholders on board. And at this stage, there were several ultimatums that had been given by government, and whether you could have your money back or not, and whether you would postpone having your money back, and all the arrangements that came with it. So around this time, as it is written, 85% of eligible bondholders had gotten on board government's domestic debt exchange program. Now, March 2023, government and a group of holders of about $13 billion in international bonds start debt restructuring talks. So let's move on. Let's go on to May 2023. Ghana's official creditors form a committee co-chaired by China and France that commit to restructuring their loans to the country. June 2023, Ghana sends a restructuring proposal to official creditors as it aims to cut $10.5 billion in interest payments over the following 3 years. October 2023, Ghana and the IMF reached a staff-level agreement on the first review of the $3 billion loan program. Now, on the 12th of January 2024, that's almost a year ago, or a little over a year ago, government reaches agreement to restructure $5.4 billion of the debt to its official creditors. March 2024, around that time, of course, the budget was read. Ghana and the international bondholders begin formal talks. So we have moved from the domestic into the external. So in June last year, Ghana and its international bondholders reached an agreement on restructuring of its dollar bonds. And then the 28th of June 2024, that's the same month, IMF Executive Board completes the second review under the Extended Credit Facility Agreement. That's the ACF arrangement with Ghana. This allowed for the country, or allows for the country, immediate disbursement of SDR 269.1 million. That's about 360 million US dollars. Now, 5th September 2024, government initiates an exchange, offer and consent solicitation process with the aim to restructure the 13 billion US dollar outstanding Eurobond portfolio. 2nd December 2024, that's a little over a month or two ago. IMF Executive Board completes the third review of Ghana's 36-month extended credit facility, ECF arrangement, and this allowed for the immediate disbursement of SDR 200, that's the 360 million US dollars we talked about earlier, which had been negotiated or reviewed by the board in June 2024. So January 2025, that's 2 or 3 days ago, Ghana now signs a memorandum of understanding with its official creditors, securing 2.86 billion US dollars in relief. That's some good news. And in as much as I've told you about all of this, I'm going to still ask Doc how this happened. So the ongoing efforts currently, government is working to make further progress with private banks, which the country owed about 2.7 billion. Would ask Doc what this means, what the government is working or to make further progress with the private banks means. Are they going to ask for a relief also? But this is very significant, and this is what Dr. Casey Latofosin, the Minister of Finance, was or has been talking to us about. Ghana has signed a memorandum of understanding with the official creditors securing $2.86 billion in relief. And Doc, let me ask you even before I take my seat. I mean, I've run everybody through what we've been doing as a country, but for you, at the economics department of the presidency, what's been happening? And is this what exactly the Minister of Finance has been talking about?
I mean, well, it's what the Minister of Finance put out there is synchronization of what government agreement is. And that's what we are as of now. So there's no figure anywhere to deal with in that regard. So whatever he says as far as the credit agreement is concerned, and mind you, all 25, right, creditors signed up to this. And that's a very important thing to do. It tells you the kind of negotiations that have gone into it. I remember when I was coming in studio, a friend of mine called me up from Germany and said, look, Sharif, you guys should communicate. Whatever happens behind the scenes ought to be known. You may think that it's just an inheritance of a policy. No, a lot went into it, and a lot of work has been done through it to have that relief happening. Because, I mean, interestingly, we are in which month? We are still in the month of. We're just in the month of February.
Yeah,
now,
we
right?
just entered February.
So some commendation ought to be given to President Mahama, right, for having to have had a finance minister at this time to be part of this and to announce this in and of itself shows a certain level of commitment to economic recovery, to economic stability, and to economic progress. So these are all indications that are bringing investor confidence into the country. Mind you, your first quarter, you begin to see some of these results trickle in. Interestingly, anecdotally, if you have friends at the bank, the commercial banks, you know, depositors have changed their attitudes toward banking now. There's a bit of appetite of deposit.
Are they depositing more?
More is coming in, right? That is anecdotally. You can't quote me on this. Like that, the figures in and of itself would all build up in the first quarter or probably in the second quarter for us to really have a real picture of what had happened in the last 3 months or 6 months or so. But something is beginning to happen as far as that is concerned, which shows a certain level of commitment. And as I said, signaling has been very important, not just on the part of the president, but on the part of his appointees as well. The Honorable Atuforsen started signaling right from his vetting.
Yes.
In how he responded to some of these questions and in what was happening, which tells you that, you know, the engine room has been running far too long before even taking office. So a lot had happened and a lot have gone into this. And that's a clear reflection of what we are saying today.
And is that already boosting investor confidence?
I'll tell you, yes. Yeah, you're confident yourself as a Ghanaian speaking to these figures. You could smile to say, okay, well, I heard you mention 2.6 billion, or 2.86 billion in relief.
I mean, that's
That's
significant. That's
significant.
very significant.
That's worthwhile. So it means something has really been achieved as far as this is concerned. And this did not happen with people sleeping at the wheels. Work was being done. Engagements were being done. Negotiations were being done. And all of these parts. I tell you something very interesting, that this particular IMF program that we are under and have inherited as a government is a very unique one. Why is it so? We may have gone to the IMF, they say 16 times, whatever.
And people are asking whether we are going to go again. This is a discussion we had, but I'll put that down and still ask whether we will go again.
Whether it's 16, 18 times, the unique nature of this IMF program that we went for as a country and we have inherited as a government to manage for the next couple of years is that it has failed in certain aspects of its impact. In the sense, as I keep saying this, when there's an IMF program and the tranches to come in, it becomes the meter board for monitoring of the forex market. So, you know, that farmer who wants to expand his poultry farm, that businessman who wants or dealing in forex would say, okay, well, let me wait till this money hits the government kitty. Once it does, the CD would appreciate a certain level of stability and I'll go into this investment as I'm dealing with forex here. Right. We missed a couple of tranches and that gave us a dysfunctional market. And that gave us a distrust as far as the market confidence is concerned from the local market in and of itself, not to talk about the international. So what we are actually benefiting from this program is the technical assistance bit of it and the sort of financial discipline it brought. Apart from the bodies, it's quite difficult to see the real tangibility of what it would have done to an economy as usual programs have done in the past. And here we are with this, and we're managing the credit card agreement smoothly, and we're engaging our external creditors. Mind you, government, you were making your statistical figures where I think that you emphasize, I could read your body language and tone, that, 56% of external, 66% of
course.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the bond market, government bonds are the most attractive. Why? Because of stability. They're going to pay. They're going to engage you because they are a sovereign nation, right? And that's exactly what has brought us here. I mean, and we're not going to do politics about this. We're talking reality. So which is why we're not making reference to any government A, B, C, D have done what, but we're talking to the technicalities and the real impact this would have had.
I'll come back to ask you the relevance of the entire IMF program moving forward, whether we have to go in or not. And then what's all of this mean for us? We have read again that government is working to make further progress with the private banks, which the country owed about 2.7 million. Yeah. I mean, you've stated what the government has been doing so far, the signaling, the positive effect of the signaling, and all of that. I mean, what's that? What does this statement mean for us? Are we going to see a relief like we have seen, or we're going to see some sort of...
Well, this is an ongoing negotiation. Right. Chatham House rules. It's quite difficult to say. Hey,
I'll still come back to it anyway, but kindly indulge me.
Yes.
If you're watching us, we are with Dr. Sharif. He's a policy advisor to the government at the Vice President's office. And tonight we are discussing government's debt restructuring program. You heard the Finance Minister, Dr. Kisela Tofosin, make some announcements, and I'll keep reiterating it. There is a memorandum of understanding with the official creditors, and 25 partners have signed to it, the MOU, securing $2.86 billion in relief. You still can join us online, but please do not call the line. When you get your messages in, we will have it. I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll round up the discussion. Please do stay with us. Right, so you're welcome back from the break, and let me quickly read some messages. I promise that I'm going to do that for you. So let me do one or two. I have quite a number trickling in. This is the bottom line. This one says, Dr. Khalid's appointment not only brings hope, but it also affirms GM's determination to rely on competence and experience to build Ghana. This is from Baba Wajia, or Baba Wajia. Baba, you didn't tell us where you're texting from. Good evening. Please extend my great congratulations to Dr. Sharif Khalid. I wish him well in his new appointment. Said from Tamale. Said, thank you very much. Sharif Mahmud Khalid, PhD, Honorable Dia Ula Batia Santi. You just mentioned doctor's name. You didn't say anything attached to it. Congratulations to Prof We the people of Wa are proud of you, sir. This is from Germany. Seidu Ibrahim in Germany. Good evening, Efri. Ghana stand to gain her value under the leadership of President Mahama, looking at the persons that he appointed to manage the various sectors of the economy. Kudos to Dr. Sharif Mahmud for his appointment. Efri, tell Doctor that they should work hard to better the living standard of the average Ghanaian and not disappoint us like elsewhere other appointees. I would not mention names. Unfortunately, this is bottom line. So you are asking for Paul Adumochiri here. Paul will be on tomorrow. Good evening, Ghana. So this is bottom line, not good evening, please. Right. Doc, let me come to you because I'm getting lots of messages, but almost all of them are congratulating you for your appointment and exhibiting excitement over President Mahama's inclusion of people in the academics in his government. But let's come back now to what government is doing and what's the way forward for us. Like you said, you've been managing it since President Mahama took over. It's an inherited program, and so you have managed it so far. But what's the way forward? What are we looking at?
There are a lot happening. As I said, signaling has been very important as far as this is concerned. You know, one of our cardinal manifesto promises is the Women Development Bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and as you would see, within the transitionary period happening, you had the country manager of the African Development Bank paying a courtesy call to the vice president, who is one of the passionate leaders as far as trying to lead the charge for the Women Development Bank, already having engagements and initiative. Hardly do you find these in government happening even within transitionary periods, but this was happening. Engaging, the development banking sector, i.e., we talk about the African Development Bank, among others, as far as for me, what was exciting about this engagement was that she was very insistent on inviting the very committee or manifesto subcommittee that birthed the idea to be a part of it, which is a continuum. Back in the day, once you were done, you dissolve all these committees, they went away. So you brought fresh people. Sometimes trying to retweak things may be very difficult. But what happened is that we're still carrying along these committees and trying to see how that is going to be done. And for me, that continuity was very significant.
IMF again.
Well, that's a very early question to ask. Very, very early question to ask.
You can see in the future, you are an economist.
No, but yes, but we're already under a program. And even by the IMF's own rules, if you don't end a program, how do you go in for another?
I mean, when we end this current program.
No, but that's, and no economist can project into that once this program ends, we're going into one. The circumstance of the time and the exigencies of the moment.
Was it necessary for us to have gone in then, the circumstances of the time?
Well, it was.
When we went for this
it was long overdue. Actually, it was long overdue.
But the government believed that if we had a program, for example,
no, we were being political about. No, but we're being political about it, right? Where we talked about nuisance taxes, among other issues. When we brought them, what happened? It came too little, too late, right? We needed it like yesterday, and it came today, right? And we all saw the ramifications of it and the nuisance taxes that it came in the raft of all of these hula baloo that surrounded the IMF program. So that is not to say nobody is discounting. I mean, I'm not sitting on television or national TV to say we'll never go to the IMF whatsoever. We are government, and neither am I confirming any of these things. But what I'm saying is that we are under a program now, and our focus is to manage that program prudently and responsibly to its logical conclusion, with real impacts and tangibilities being felt in the economy.
When we ended up,
and that is what we have to do.
When we ended up at the IMF and we still had the e-levy coming, there were calls, but that the e-levy could be cut. President Mahama promised that he was going to cut the e-levy. Is it going to be done still?
Well, I mean, the government is in process. Cabinet is still being put in place.
Is it going to be done?
No, we have sector ministers that have responsibilities.
You are advising the government.
Yes, I am advising the government.
When it comes to the economy, I mean, most of us.
Yes.
Most of us. And if you look at the brackets who pay e-levy more, it's we the lay people. And I think
do we all agree it's a nuisance tax? Yes, we do. President Mahama listed a number of activities he's going to undertake within the first 120 days of his administration.
And of course,
so we are still within, yes, and we are still within the first one. Have we exhausted the first 120 days? So can you ask your question after that?
We want to see that in the budget.
Is the budget out?
Will it feature? Will it feature?
Is the budget out? The budget is not out. We still have all the way till March to have a budget, a national budget. So why don't you wait to have a budget? Why don't you wait for the expiration of the 120 days? Then you can ask these kind of questions that you want to ask. As we say, we are working day and night to achieve all of this and to have the real impacts and to make sure that President Mahmoud does not only have a tick-box exercise, but actually have real tangible results and impact in the economy. And for that matter, the masses.
Congratulations, Prof, on your appointment. I absolutely have no doubt you will contribute enormously to the growth and development of our dear land, Ghana. May Allah continue to be your guide in this new role. Dr. George Dakura, KNUST.
Yeah. Amen. Amen to that. All right.
Right, amen to that. Daniel Enim says, congratulations, Prof. You are texting from Awish. Congratulations, Prof. Has the IMF program been a success or a failure in your estimation?
Well, when it expires, I'm sure we would all accept.
But so far, the progress of it has it been?
Well, I mean, but I've told you what we missed out of it in terms of what it could have done in terms of tangible impacts on the economy. But
so it hasn't had any tangible impact so far?
Very infinitesimal.
That's why I asked whether it was necessary at all.
No, but we needed to go.
And it hasn't still had any
impact. It's just that we
impact
went with our tails in between our legs and we went in a paralyzed state. So too little, too late, but we had to.
Would you say that if we have the option to go to the IMF, I mean, with all the restrictions that come with it, in this particular program, we've spoken about the domestic debt exchange program, we've spoken about lots of restrictions that comes to us as an economy. Sometimes they are good because of the discipline that it brings to the management of the economy. Other times it restricts us too much.
One thing you're failing to realize is that we went to the IMF when we had exhausted all credit lines. We went to the IMF when we had almost collateralized, right, all revenue generation pipelines. What could we have done differently?
Should we not be able to manage the economy so that we don't get there? We've always been talking about the structure of the economy.
I want me to repeat myself.
Right.
What I said is that we went to the IMF
when we
had exhausted all credit lines. We went to the IMF when we had collateralized almost all revenue pipelines. What else could we have done differently at the time? What could that government have done?
The same repetition again, and that's why I come back to the fact that lots of people are congratulating you.
Yes.
And I've told you about.
So here is a government. So that's what I'm saying. Here is a government in place that has inherited that.
Yes.
Trying to manage it and still run an economy.
Yes.
That is what we should be looking at.
Yes,
and so that is what is important.
But I still come back to the fact that people have congratulated you.
Yes.
People are congratulating. I've seen Professor Kobe Mensah, I've seen Professor Jampo and so on and so forth, to make sure that we don't get to this level again. And that's why I asked, is it possible that we will get there again? Or with all of you in play now, Dr. Nimoy Thompson going back to NDPC, we are not expecting to be talking about IMF again.
No government would dream of ever going to the IMF in its real sense of it. So we are very positive that the outlooks are important. As I said, the signaling is very important. You know what? We were experiencing an overheated economy when we're talking about turning a corner. But within an overheated economy, it ought to cool off before you can even turn a corner. Right? We have inherited a sinking economy now. So what we need to do is
cooling it off for now.
Bring it up to a flat rate and then see how we can bring it off. And that's exactly what this 20-plus days old government is doing. Mind you, the government is not even up to a month old.
There is hope.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
There is hope.
There is hope.
Let me ask this from, hello, Ima, my name is Kwesi Fred. Kindly ask Doctor, 1, the African Development Bank affirms Ghana initiative of backing the Ghana cedi with our gold. Is this a good step to continue by the new government? Number 2, please, when you talk about relief, does it mean we will not pay this debt? Or simply a delayed payment that we will still have to pay? Kwesi Fred sent in this one. Kwesi, you didn't mention where you are sending.
No, but you know, Kwesi Fred makes a very fundamental point. But that reminds me of something very important, again, that this government is committed to as far as economic stability, currency stability, reserves of the central banks and everything is concerned. Something significant happened a few days ago, which is a committee or a technical committee that got assembled and put together to look at what
I agree.
gold.
I perfectly
right.
agree.
So these are all geared towards that. Agree. So what you would see is that it's just like building a house.
Setting up of the gold board.
So it's just like building a house. And President Mahmoud started so well with a foundation. And a solid foundation is what is going to prevent a future IMF program. And that's exactly what he's doing. So let's watch him, guide him, support him, cheer him on, and give him the needed technical moral support and economic support to actually achieve all of this.
I'll come back to ask you what we are to expect, but let me read these two. Good evening. Oh, it's still congratulations, but let me still read it. Good evening, Doctor. Congratulations for your nomination from Pung Katamanso. This is from Nelson or Banana. I'm sure you know Doctor personally. Congratulations to Dr. Khalid. We are blessed to have fine brains like you assist the government. Keep shining and leave a mark. Della from Tema is sending this message to you. You have said there is hope. We have talked about.
Do you not feel hope? We feel hope. It's not like there is. We feel it in all of what we've seen around us.
I sit here to
the
ask,
positive signaling.
I sit here to ask the questions for the many Ghanaians who don't have the opportunity to be able to ask.
Yeah.
So I need to stand in their stead.
Yeah.
And when there is hope, yes, I'll agree there is hope. When it is actually happening, I would say it is happening. But when it is not,
yeah, you definitely say that.
Obviously.
Yeah,
so what should we expect from you finally as a government?
I mean, as I've said,
you've said lots of things.
Yeah, lots of things.
In the next 1 minute, our time is up.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. This is a 20-plus day old government, and you've seen all the right signals being put in place, the prudence, among other issues. No profligate expenditure is being done, right? No one is